This is the second module of disaster management part 2. In this chapter, we shall try to classify disaster. We shall also take up each and every disaster, and we will try to understand the risk and vulnerability associated with them. And finally, we will look at the India's vulnerability to these various disasters. We will do think by looking at hazard map of India and looking at various regions in which vulnerable resources as well as man-made disasters are there. So essentially, disasters are classified into two types. First one is natural disaster, and second one is man-made disaster, or essentially these disasters which are caused by anthropogenic factors or human-induced factors. These are called as man-made disaster. In some cases, we can have a combination of both as well. So if we understand, so if we take some cases wherein the impact of natural disaster gets amplified because of human factors. It is not only the impact or even the frequency of natural disasters can increase because of this man-made disaster, because of human interference. For example, if we take a natural floods by be amplified many times due to over exploitation of ecosystem. So if we understand the vulnerability which is associated with this disasters, so man-made disasters, man-made interventions are resulting in causing or adding the frequency to this disaster. So because of that, many people are being affected. If you take an example of a flood which has been caused because of human intervention. So, if we take an example of a flood, so the damage caused by this natural disaster, such as floods, can be amplified because of over exploitation of natural resources. So, this is the main cause for this floods, and even there we can trigger this because of agricultural activities and industrial activities, and for fossil fuels we are been using this, we are destroying whole environment, so that also in turn causes a huge damage. So if you take the example, the damage which can be caused by a natural floods can be amplified many times due to over exploitation of the ecosystem by human development. So this could be triggered by activities such as agricultural activities or industrial activities, or even our dependency on fossil fuels and other non-renewable energies also. So because of this, all acts are contributing to the climate change and the global warming. And along with this, if we have bad planning, and if we don't have no, if we are not following the basic preparedness practices that we are supposed to be followed, it will be definitely resulting in aggregate aggregative to the disaster that the natural disaster causes. And a best example for this are like urban flooding which has happened years ago in the city of Chennai. And even Chennai, if Chennai receives an excessive rainfall, it was supposed to be a natural calamity, but the impact was amplified many times over, mainly because of poor planning and distribution of unnatural distribution, distribution of this natural resources which are available there, that is termed as over exploitation, and destroying the natural drainage system and deforestation, and this all will be result. So if you look at other example, take examples of earthquakes, the natural disaster which cannot be prevented, but the damage the earthquake can cause can be amplified by human interventions. So if we take an if the same applies to tsunamis and cyclones as well. So the natural disasters, these are natural disasters, but what happened, but because of human interference, interfered, like the damage caused by this tsunami and everything has been increased because we have destroyed the wetland ecosystem, and that are on the coastline of the country, and we even destroyed the mangrove cover which exist in the coastline. So this will be definitely having an impact on the cyclones, and tsunamis will be higher because the coastal wetlands and mangrove. uh, so this mangrove and they act as a natural cover, and they provide a natural barrier which can reduce the impact of cyclone and tsunami, because they essentially absorb the impact. So the power of excess drain or any other floods which which can come in during cyclones and tsunamis. So it also helps in breaking the speed of the winds. This man cover, or like the mangrove trees which we destroyed, they help in stopping the speed of the wind. So it so by the destruction of these natural assets, we will be enhancing the impact of the disaster. So therein the third category comes in, where the natural disaster gets amplified in its impact, maybe because, and it may increase in the frequency as well, because of the human factors. If we go through the report, according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, that is abbreviated as IPCC, the global warming and the climate change and the emission of greenhouse gases have directly contributed to an increase in the magnitude and even the frequency of a natural disaster. So, this is a conclusion which was given by the IPCC report. So here they stated that because of the human interventions, the global warming and the climate change and even the emission of greenhouse gases, so this can be directly contribute to the increase in the magnitude of the frequency and as well as the frequency of the natural disasters. So this is a conclusion which was given by IPCC based upon its research over last few decades. So we have to consider this is a very crucial observation which was given by this intergovernment panel on climate change, and it clearly states that the human interference is causing more damage than a disaster, because all the actions which we have done for our survival, we have destroying the complete environment, complete ecosystem, complete everything, even the drainage, natural drainage system, we are even destroying it by occupying the place for for our construction of houses. It may be anything for our usage for agricultural purposes or industrial purposes, we are completely destroying it. We can come to a conclusion that the global warming and the climate change will definitely cause a long term damages for the society, and this can even increase the frequency of weather event, such as if a particular place may have heavy rainfall, excessive rainfall, or a particular place may have a drought condition for even decades. So even the increase in global warming temperatures and the on the climate, so that may even lead to melting of glaciers also, and even it may result in increase of the temperature of the climatic conditions, and this in turn will cause a huge damage for the human existence, because human can't survive if the temperature is going on increasing. So up to certain extent we can survive, but beyond certain extent that will be a very burden for us. And if we talk about these things, such as unplanned urbanization which results in deforestation, and we are even lagging in understanding the disaster changes which take place because of this human intervention. And I think it's a high time that we have to acknowledge that anthropogenic factors are resulting in this damage, and all this we have to keep in our mind during the planning of disaster management plans while formulating them. And even the Disaster Management Act 2005 took all these precautions, took all these measures into consideration while framing it, and that is a uh, major change in the society on this disaster management thinking. So if we go in detail to the types of disasters, so we can find a natural disaster and a man-made disaster. So if we classify the disasters which are under this man natural disasters, so they are basically classified into five types: geophysical and hydrological and meteorological and climatological and biological. If we think, if we go in detail with this first one, geological, see, this entire geological are based upon plate tectonics. So the interior of the earth is made up of plates. So these plates are dynamic in nature, they keep rubbing against each other, they'll be even colliding because of this events of that plates. So there will be a lot of energy there, and that convergent point at this convergent point of these two plates is called as a fault line. So when these two plates rub, or they end up in releasing massive amount of energy, which is basically propagated out of the earth. So this energy will be coming in the form of earthquakes, or in the form of volcano. These are all this earthquake and volcano are concerned with this plate tectonics. So this can be triggered out, and even the odd man out his here is tsunami. Tsunami is a hydrological event. Even tsunamis are in turn triggered by geophysical events only, because massive earthquake and massive volcano can lead into tsunami. So in 2014 we have observed a tsunami because of this massive earth plates movement in the Indian Ocean, which has occurred in the coast of Indonesia. So even basically these are related, this tsunamis are related to hydrological disaster, but even though they are resultant of this geophysical events only, so we have to add the tsunamis in geophysical events. So there has been a massive tsunami in 2014 in the coast of Indonesia, and that is because of massive earthquake in Indian Ocean. So hydrologically based, so if we go for the next one, hydrological one, so this hydrological is based upon the flow of water and drainage system. So inability of natural drainage system, and which is not able to hold the excessive water from excessive rainfalls. So this is known as hydrological events that will be resulting in floods, and that will be resulting in floods. If we go to landslides, these are nothing but, talk about that landslides, they are basically like the hilly and this occurs in hilly and mountainous region. So the top layer of this hilly or mountains starts slipping down in the mountains. So this is because of massive crumbling of earth crust that causes this landslides. And even sometimes the excessive rainfall can result in the saturation of the top layer of the mountains, and that may even result in this landslides. So if we go for the next one, action, wave action, so it is nothing but the tidal action. So this will be affecting for the long term number of years. Even this cause damage to the coastline of a country. So if this will be resulting, uh, final resulting in economic loss. So if we go for the next one, meteorological one, so these are very short times, this only lasts for few minutes or few hours or few weeks or few days. So very short term when compared to this hydrological events. So what happens is here, because uh, like there are only cyclones which come, or a cold wave or a heat wave or a lightning or dust storm, this all will be for a particular period only. So crops are very sensitive to this temperature event, so we have to take care of this one. So heat wave is seasonal, it will be throughout the summer season, and cold wave will be throughout the winter season. So cyclones will be coming generally because of this excessive movement on the earth crust in the sea. So if we go for the next one, climate climatological. So this lasts for long periods, even for a few decades. So this causes significant damage to human life, and even droughts impact to farmers, and they may even lead for massive economic damage also, because this entirely changes the play of demand and supply in the market. And this basically ends up, this droughts will be ending up in inflation. So there will be massive shortage of food, and damage to the food security as well. So we have to take care of this one. And if we go for the next one, it is like pathogens. So these are harmful microorganisms, like this maybe because of biological disasters we can conclude it as. So these are because of spreading of virus. They will be spreading from one person to other person. If we can experience, we are right now experiencing it in this COVID situation. So even if you take other examples, like Nipah virus in Kerala in 2018, and H1F1 influenza that has shaken the whole world. So even toxins are included in this disaster. And we go to discussion of the second classification, that is man-made disasters. So these are basically industrial disasters, or related to chemical or biological or radiological disasters, and even nuclear disasters. So this is generally termed as CBRN hazard. So this basically this are concerned with hazardous industries which are using high temperature and high pressures, like such as boilers or furnaces. So this cause a massive damage to the working class on that particular company or in that particular factory. So these are very dangerous, man-made are very dangerous disasters when we compare with the natural disasters. So if we go for the next classification, or if you take an example of this man-made disasters, so they basically are related to this biotechnology. So they are concerned in releasing toxic substances like poisonous gas or chemicals, and spread in epidemics, and leak. Like if we take an example, so there is a leakage of gases from the fertilizer industry. Example was like in 1984 Bhopal gas tragedy was the uh, big largest industrial disaster till now, even till this date. So this was because of there was a leakage of methyl isocyanide by the company Union Carbide. So this has been resulted in a long term impact, and even the people now are suffering with, even the generations of that families who resided in the Bhopal are suffering with this disability and genetical disorders also. And this is a very this disaster is considered largest industrial tragedy. So if we go for the next one, in case of oil spills, so this comes under industrial disasters. So we have a recent disasters of this oil spills are taken place in Ennore, that is in Chennai, and the other one is in Mumbai coast. So these are recent examples. So if we go for the other one, CBRN, the thing which we have discussed, which is related with chemical, biological, or radiological, or nuclear disasters, these are generally made in warfares or in during the conflict times they are being brought up. So even though there are many international conventions to regulate this chemical uh, things or biological weapons, still even some countries follow this, having a nuclear disaster things will be great, and even they are following still now. So if you take an examples, so this industry needs some special skills or special resources for even the disaster management will not be entirely different when compared to this man-made disasters. So intelligence agency, or this basically comes under a home ministry, deal with this CBRN warfare or conflict which we are discussing, chemical, biological, or radiological, or nuclear hazard. These were controlled by home ministry, sorry. So this need a continuous plans and dedicated plans to stop this CBRN hazards. if we take some examples of this CBR and hazards, so first one is a biological thing, and even in USA they faced this biological hazard in 2001, quite after the 9/11 attack. So there was an anthrax virus which created a panic in the world. So, and there was even a plague which created a sensation in Europe during the World War. So if we go for the next one, radiological and nuclear, we can easily say that Japan during the World War II it faced the nuclear attacks. And if you go for a chemical attack, that was in Syrian civil war. A lot of chemicals were used, and even Vietnam war. Orange red was used, which these are generally called as a nerve agents. So the moment these chemicals are released in the environment, they cause a lot of inconvenience for the nervous system of a human being, and humans will be dying. At an ultimate result was will lead to the death because of the nervous damage. If we talk about some more nuclear disasters or hazards, we can even take into consideration of a Chernobyl disaster and 3 Mile incident of USA. And recent one was Fukushima disaster in Japan, which was in 2011. So these all are very dangerous hazards. So this CBR and hazards require a lot of skill and special resources to be developed. If any country want to harm any other country with this techniques, they should be a specialist in this technology. So this are generally comes under the control of Home Ministry. So in order to save ourselves from any pandemics such as any other virus, influenza, which was infected in the world, so we this Home Ministry controls everything. So these are the general examples which I have given. Now we'll going to discuss about the next topic. Now we are going to discuss about earthquakes in detail for greater understanding of this disaster, and let's get started with that. So the first thing we have to understand the risk and the vulnerability of this disaster. So if we go in detail, this is a natural disaster as we have discussed previously. So this is related to geophysical event. So this is a direct outcome of an plate tectonics or a plate movement, tectonic movements of the plate. So the whole earth is made up of this tectonic movement, like plates are there inside the earth. So these plates will not be constant at a point. They are dynamic in nature, and they keep on moving from here and there, and they keep on rubbing each other, and this movement will lead to the uh, release of massive amounts of energy. So the tip of this plates are known as fault point. So when two plates rub against each other, so here massive energy will be producing at this fault point. So that will be triggered as an earthquake, or that will be triggered as an cyclone or tsunami. So this happens when this kind of movement happens in the uh, plate tectonic moment. So if we go for the next thing, see, the earth is made up of plates. Under the earth we have different plates, and these plates will not be at a constant point. They move here and there. They are dynamic in nature. So because of the movement of this plates, that is a different subject. So that is known as plate tectonics. So we will be discussing about in detail in other videos. So here, because this is the main cause of the earthquake. If we go, if there is any earthquake which caused, or which has been there in an uninhabited place, or where in a location where there is no that is inhabited, so there will be no risk associated with that, because there is no loss. So only when there is a high intensity of earthquake in the habitant place, so that causes a lot of damage. So various risks are associated with that earthquakes also. So this is a not a standalone disaster. While earthquake is not a standalone disaster, these can in turn trigger other a number of natural resources also, natural disasters also. For example, if you take an earthquake which occurs under a sea, so that will be resultant in tsunamis. So if we take place this earthquake in a mountainous area where the landslides are built, so there may be a damage for these landslides, and there may be a flash floods even because of this landslides. So these landslides act as a natural dams, avalanches, avalanches. So these are called avalanches. So there may be a damage for this avalanches, because of this earthquakes. And earthquakes and volcanoes are also in coexistence in nature. So one of such area, if we speak in detail, that will be specific ring of fire. So that specific ring of fire extends from Southeast Asia and goes to East Asia, that is Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean region. So earthquakes can result in eruption of lava and magma also. So this leads a lot of destruction. And earthquakes can cause a lot of uh, damage to roads and buildings also. So the affected area where the disaster taken place may be even disconnected from the rest of the world, because like there will be a lot of damage for the airports and railways, so we can't operate them. So there will be disconnecting, that we have to disconnect that place from the rest of the world. They don't have any means of connectivity, and this even leads for this disconnectivity even leads for the slowdown of even response mechanism, so that we have to implement in that disaster prone area. Even earthquakes can even damage power lines and power guides also. So because of this damage to this power lines, so there will be no physical and virtual connections, and there will be interruption for this connections as well. So when the communication connection are damaged, so that becomes a very problematic for coordinating the local and state authorities, because we can't give any assistance for that affected area if the communications are lost. Even there should be at least a virtual communication, so that we can instruct, or they can say where they are facing problem, or which area is affected huge loss or anything. So this earthquakes can cause a lot of disruption for everything. Even if you take any if you want to give any response mechanism or rescue operations, if you want to continue there also, that will be very problematic for the staff or for the government. And this earthquakes even have a potential to damage the critical infrastructure, such as nuclear plants or dams, etc. So this will be a lot of causing a lot of damage for even environment if there is any damage in the nuclear plant. So these are all planned very before, while establishing any nuclear plants or somewhere, based upon this vulnerability map of India. So these also even damage these nuclear plants that finally result in radiological or nuclear disasters. So that is what exactly happened in Fukushima disaster in 2011, which was happened in Japan. So even that may even lead this earthquake even may lead for the breakage of epidemics, because during these earthquakes, so there will be no hygiene conditions are followed in the temporary relief camps. So and even proper medical aid should we can't even provide them at 100%. So that may even lead for breakage of any epidemics also. So there will also be a long term psychological and mental trauma. So the victims of earthquake prone areas may suffer, and they need assistance in counseling and rehabilitation to overcome the impact of this disaster. And this disaster prone areas also suffer major economic angle loss also, like losing all the economic function, and everything turns out to be loss in that region. So many people will be investing a lot for their business in this places, but they'll be finally ending up with whole loss because of this earthquake disaster. And even the insurance sector of that particular area will be dealing with a difficult situation, because they have to pay compensation for their customers, because many people will be taking insurance of their houses or any valuable items. So that in turn pressures on economic situation of that particular area, because people will have been insuring all the valuable items. So next we are talking about vulnerability of these earthquakes in India. If we talk about the institutions which deal with these disasters, our first one strikes our mind is Indian Meteorological Department. So this is responsible for monitoring and keeping a record of all earthquakes in India, and this also helps in planning the rescue operations, and also coordinates with other stakeholders also. With Inconix, this is a branch, this is a authority which keeps a record of predicting tsunamis. As earthquakes and tsunamis coexist, we have these two units should work in coexistence and coordinating with each other. And all this disaster comes in under the Ministry of Home Affairs, and there this all even NDMA, Indian National this National Disaster Management Authority, even deals with all this helping and deploying the forces for the rescue operations, and even financial assistance to the areas also. So, and even we have many other departments which work under this disaster management control, intelligence report. Everything will be keeping a track on this movements of this plate tectonics in order to predict the future, but that won't be possible in case of earthquakes. Now let us talk about the vulnerability of earthquakes in India. This is the vulnerability map. So there are zones classified into four types, and the zone 5 is most vulnerable location, and this is located majorly in the parts of Himalayan region and the parts of Jammu Kashmir and the state of Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand and parts of Bihar and entire northern states. So, and even the Gujarat Gulf of Kambat or Gulf of Kutch. So I have been marked with arrows all the areas which covers in under this zone 5. So if we and this we also have Andaman and Nicobar Islands also in the down. So these are also having high vulnerability when compared with other parts of India. So let us look at a Himalayan belt first. So these are Engfold mountains. So this Indian plate is rushing up with the Eurasian plate. So and this pushes a huge amount of material which has led to the formation of Himalayan mountains. So and the fault line exists over the Himalayas is a very active fault line. So there is a great when there is any active fault line, so there will be a great possibility of rupture, and especially in this mentioned states. So these states faced many earthquakes even in the past. So even the Pacific Ring of Fire, because of this Pacific Ring of Fire, Indonesia witnesses earthquakes very frequently, and these earthquakes in Indonesia will also have an impact of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, because it is also somewhat situated in the Pacific Ring of Fire. And this as per the estimates of Geophysical Survey of India, so and even the Natural Meteorological Department, there is a 59% of Indian territory falls under this seismic activity. That means 59% of Indian geographical area can experience earthquakes. So that need to be note down an important point. In contrast, if we look at the parts of India, especially in the central and the Deccan Plateau, where have been marked with CP and DP. So this region is relatively free from these earthquakes. It is mainly because the region is mainly stable, and the terrain has matured over the years, the terrain which is under this play and under this area. So it is much older in the age also when compared with the Himalayan region, because Himalayan mountains are young mountains. So the central parts and the Deccan Plateau are so relatively safe when compared with this northern part Himalayan region. So now you can see the central part and Deccan Plateau, which uh, there is very low risk when compared with the other regions of this earthquake. So if we see the Himalayan regions, these areas are densely populated with Uttarakhand and Bihar and even NCR of Delhi. So most of the buildings or the infrastructure which are in this area are not earthquake resistant. So so even the region becomes more vulnerable, because the high intensity earthquake can cause much damage to this area. So if we speak about the other past experiences, in 2000 when we have Bhuj in Gujarat which occurred. So and even 2005 we have Jammu Kashmir, massive earthquake in Jammu Kashmir which nearly killed 90,000 people. And even in 2011 there was a massive earthquake in the state of Sikkim. And even in 2015 Nepal has faced a big massive earthquake which even impacted some parts of India, of Uttar Pradesh and even Bihar. So India, at that time, India gave assistance to Nepal. uh, so as per the foreign policy doctrine, because the community can't cope up there in the Nepal because of this disaster. So there was an operation which was named as Operation Maitri, and that will be something important. So we have to make a note of that one also, Operation Maitri. So that is Operation Maitri is just rescue operations which were held by India in the Nepal. So even the zone for nearby area Himalayan regions like which state of Punjab, so these are also somewhat dangerous places. And if we talk about the disaster reduction steps, so the first one will be vulnerability profile. And with the help of this profile, so urban planning and locating the critical infrastructure will be framing out their policies where to be located or anything. And the next one is land use planning based on zonal classification, and this deals with all about how land is managed, and based on the level of the threat of the local authorities can enforce the building standards or not. So there should be some prescription about model conduct of code of conduct, so that maintains a unique building structure in the areas of earthquake prone areas, that will be earthquake resistant buildings. So this is the most effective tool to cut down the impact of earthquakes. And we should implement this model code of conduct from the ground level. So if we take an example of Japan, which is literally sitting on the Pacific Ring of Fire, which is more prone to earthquakes. Even we can even see a remarkable difference when we compare Japan with India, because because the Japan has implemented its plan very effectively. There has been many earthquakes in the Japan, but the loss of human life is very limited in that areas, because all the buildings were earthquake resistant buildings. So if you take examples in India, we have a massive human loss has occurred because of this one. And even effective response system should be followed. This is all during the disaster phase, and the first two above is during pre-disaster phase. So even we have this all comes under early warning and forecasting, and this gives enough time to take measures in order to reduce the impact of the disaster. Early warnings help us to reduce the impact of the disaster. And in case of earthquakes, it is difficult to predict the frequency and magnitude of the disaster, because we have limited technology, and with the latest technology we can only predict the long term assessment, and that might be not incorrect. in the future. So we have to carry out the pre-disaster and post-disaster and during disaster phases very effectively. And when we talk about the other things, other steps, earthquake insurance, all this awareness generation, we have to create some mock drills in order to create awareness among the people, and we have to even do the urban planning very well, accurately, so that in order to prevent all this disaster impact. So now we are going to discuss about volcanoes. So if we speak about this one, generally these are another geophysical hazard, so which are related to plate tectonics along with the fault line. We can witness this one. So also this include emission of greenhouse gases, and these even cause significant damage for the environment as well. So they involve in releasing lava, magma and toxic gases and greenhouse gases, and pyroclastic flows also sometimes. So that may lead to very destruction of the whole environment or whole nature around that one. So these are very harmful for harmful disaster when compared to rest of them, because this will be creating a lot of this is involves in creating a lot of all unwanted gases in the atmosphere. And if we discuss the effects, so because of that release of harmful and toxic gases, so that leads to environment respiratory problems, and even it can completely destroy the ecosystem. So even the plants and animals are burnt alive when the lava will be coming out from these volcanoes. And along with this larva and magma, it can also even cause aerosols, and particular matter can be released in the atmosphere. So this particular matters and particulate matters and aerosols can even block the sunlight to enter or pass through them. So this becomes a big problematic to the region which was affected. So this will be having a longer impact on the local climate and even the weather of that particular region. So even the impact can also be uh, extended to aviation sector also. So when this aerosols and the sunlight, like aerosols and the particular matter which was released during this volcanoes eruptions, so this completely destroys the atmosphere or the climate of that particular region, because lot of aerosols will be emitted into the atmosphere. So that will be entirely blocking the atmosphere, and even the sunlight can't pass through that aerosols or particulate matter. So this in turn will lead to a destruction of that complete area, which in turn will turn into an uninhabited region for for a long period of time. So if we go in detail, even this aerosols and particulate matter, so the impact of this one will be extended to the aviation sector as well. So this will even lead to the disruption of or unfunctioning of this aircrafts. So even the volcanoes can cause damage to the ecosystem, even the plants there, and even the animals. Even if any endangered species are there in that location, so they will be completely vanished, and even the property will be damaged there. And if you talk about the economic structure, economic view of a particular region, it will be completely destroyed, because there will be a huge economic loss, and even long term pollution might be there, and that in turn will affect in a long run of that particular region, because there will be a damage to the climate change for a long period of time. So this can't be prevented, these volcanoes can't be prevented. So no, so few steps can be taken in mitigation and preparedness. So one of those are like we can limit the habitation in these places, and if the state is not prepared with the emergency response, so even that eruption of these volcanoes can even lead to forest fires also. So we have to be prepared with emergency response teams, and we can even limit the flow of lava by digging the trenches with some while by digging the trenches. While even though we have some limitations on this digging trenches, we can stop this larva up to certain extent, but beyond that extent it will be very difficult. The only option is to evacuate the complete area. So even the evacuation will lead to misplacement. So if we talk about India, we have only one active volcano in India. So the only region or which is vulnerable and still has an active volcano is Barren Island. So it is a part of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So from the last few decades, the volcano has been dormant, but recently from 2017, so they started giving emissions of dust and vapor out of this volcano. So it is very closely located to the Pacific Ring of Fire, so because of this one only it is active. So if you look at the Pacific Ring of Fire countries like Indonesia or East Asian countries, we can find many active volcanoes there. So even we have Bali in Indonesia. We have a mountain named Mountain Agung. So it was active in 2017 and 2018. It became very active. So it started giving smoke and dust particles. Because of that, the tourism there in Indonesia was severely affected, and even Japan has is one more country which is having many active volcanoes. So even the east of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, we have Norkodam Island, which is also active once upon a time. So, but now it is in dormant. So, even if you see Mount Agung, we have to, because it is a part of specific ring of fire where multiple fault line exist. Because of this reason, there are many volcanoes in when we see in Japan and Indonesia. So we have another active volcano, that is Mount Fuji in Japan, and now we are going to discuss about tsunamis in detail. So if we go for tsunamis, so these are generally geophysical events, which we already learned about what is geophysical event. So if we see the reason for this tsunamis are, so the major reason is underwater earthquake. This is the primary reason. So that earthquake under the sea will disturb the sea floor, and in return displaces a water which is located above the sea floor. So even tsunami wave is extremely long wavelength. So the wavelength will be increasing as the wave approaches the shore or the coast. So when the tsunami strikes a coast, the coast area is hit with a wall of water. So the wavelength will be was high, but the length is very low when in the mid of the sea. So the speed of tsunami, the waves of the water will be traveling more than the speed, approximate 800 kilometer per hour. So as it approaches the coastline, the velocity of the wave decreases. So the velocity decreases when it is reaching the coast, but the height of the wavelength will be increasing. So this is where tsunamis will be turning into a catastrophic event. So not only the earthquakes can trigger tsunamis, even we have landslides which take place in deep sea, and volcanic eruptions which take in seabed. So this will release a lava and magma. Can this may lead to displace the water. So mm, even meteor strike can even trigger this tsunamis. But most commonly, main cause to trigger these tsunamis are earthquakes which occur on the sea floor, and the risk associated if for suppose if the coastal location is more prone to these earthquakes and volcanoes, the occurrence of tsunami will be more. And we have an organization in COIS, Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services. This provides us all the information related to the tsunamis. And in 2004, our Indian Ocean has also witnessed a tsunami which struck east coast of India, AP, Telangana, and Puducherry. Kerala also affected because of this one. So if we talk about the main critical infrastructure on the coastline, so that will be turning as a threat for that. The best example would be like Fukushima disaster. The nuclear power plant is situated in this Fukushima and started falling because of the tsunami, which has brought lot of water into this nuclear power plant. Because of that bringing of water into this power plant, that led to power cut down of the power lines to this nuclear power plant. So what happened is because of that shutdown of power lines, so that affected to maintain the backup system, so that rendered uselessly. Even we have backup system for that power plant, that also rendered useless because of this earthquake and tsunami. So this affected in shutdown of the power line to maintain the core temperatures of this nuclear reactor. So that because of we can't maintain that core temperatures, because of that resultant we there was a leakage of nuclear radiation. So we have many corporations and conventions such as SARC and BIMSTEC also for regulating this nuclear power plants. So if we speak about the other thing, landslides, it is also called as landslides. It is generally occurs in hilly mountainous region, where this occurs in even in snow covered mountains as well. So the snow covered area, the mountains, we call them as avalanches. So if this will be a disaster, will be sudden in nature. So the rock surface or the debris which is present on the mountain, suddenly that starts falling down, and that creates a massive destruction for the or massive impact for the people or the inhabited regions down that mountain. So this landslides generally occurs in the hilly regions and mountainous region, because the surface of that mountains are not so strong. So because of that reason it will be affected, it is caused, landslides are caused. If we see the impacts, the man-made as well as natural, deforestation and over exploitation and rampant construction, we can say these are man-made causes for this landslides. And if we talk about the natural causes for this landslides, we can take into consideration earthquakes, floods, and heavy rainfall. See, when there is a heavy rainfall in this mountainous region, the surface of the mountain becomes loose, so that falling of the surface will be taking place when there is heavy rainfalls. And because of that, the region which are situated below that mountain will be affected. And if we talk about the other things, such as other disasters such as floods and everything, we'll are discussing right now, we will be discussing about floods. So when the carrying capacity of a river or a water body is overwhelmed, so that is considered as a flood. So if a water body gets excess water, then the natural drainage system which the river or which a water body is having, that cannot hold the water which it received excess. So what it will do is it will be transferring the water to the lower areas nearby that river body. So even the natural drainage system can be affected uh, to its capacity due to the formation of slit. So when the water flows from higher location to lower location, so the water usually brings the slit along with that flow. So that even might cause a damage for this natural capacity which the natural drainage system which the river body is having. So if we talk about the other things, we can go about cyclones. So if we talk about cyclone, so tropical cyclone occurs in North Indian Ocean, and which includes Bay of Bengal as well, and even the Arabian Sea. So these are basically an extreme weather event. So if we can consider them as a meteorological disaster also. So if so, the both Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea witnesses the formation of cyclones. Bay of Bengal, this witnesses more cyclones when compared with Arabian Sea, and the intensity of the cyclones which formed in this Bay of Bengal are very high when compared to Arabian Sea. So the east coast of India is more vulnerable to the damage because the Bay of Bengal is situated in the east of India, and when compared to the west coast of India. So if we speak about the months May to June and September as well, so these are tropical cyclones. So if we speak about October and November, they have very high intensity cyclones. There are three phases where these tropical cyclones are formed, that is May to June, September and October to November. Out of these three phases, October to November are having high intensity cyclones. When we talk about the super cyclone, so the October and November, which the cyclones are formed during this period, they have potential power to transform into super cyclone. So India also experienced many super cyclones. If we talk particular in about, we experienced in 1999 in Odisha, which resulted in 10,000 deaths, and even in 2013 we have cyclone Falin, and 2014 we have cyclone Hudhud, and 18 also we have Oki. So 2018 cyclone affected India, Sri Lanka and Maldives also. If we talk about the forest fires, the next thing, so these are commonly occurred in tropical countries where where the particular region registers high temperatures, and the frequency witnesses this forest fires also. So these regions, commonly these tropical countries witnesses this frequently witness this forest fires. So when we talk about India, the Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats and central parts of India are more vulnerable to this forest fires. So even the, like if you talk about particularly about the Himalayan belt, this is absolutely free from the forest fires. Even in 2019 we have we have a reported at almost 30,000 forest fires in the country, and out of that 95% were human caused. And the next one is dust storms. So these are basically example for extreme weather events which are caused by meteorological events. So these are mainly caused because of pressure differences and temperature differences. So even we have witnessed many dust storms in 2018 in the month of April and May, and basically the northern part of India witnessed this dust storms in 2018, and because they suffered due to unprecedented dust storms. This is an unprecedented event, the dust storm. So this affected Uttar Pradesh, parts of Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan, and even it affected the state Haryana, and even the Delhi national capital region also affected because of this dust storms. So we have discussed about the classification of disasters, and we have in detail discussed about the each disaster also. So this is the end of module 2, and we're going to discuss rest of the things in module